And we are live. Welcome to Connections Unplugged from LinkedIn to Life. This is a video podcast series where I bring my LinkedIn connections, the people that I'm connected to on LinkedIn, into open and unscripted conversations. The guests don't know what I'm about to ask them, and I think they're a good sport. They can tackle every single question that comes their way. I focus both on the people behind the LinkedIn profiles, but also as professionals, who they are as people and who they are as professionals. I want to bring to you and introduce you to my contacts and my connections on LinkedIn, but also to get to know them on a deeper level myself. So we will explore what drives my guests, what inspires them, what they've been up to in the past, present, and where they're headed in the future. So they bring their own unique stories as they like them to be told. Today, my special guest, and I bring him straight away to the studio, is Ben Furman. Hi, Ben.
Thank you for the invitation. Pleasure to be with you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Allow me to say a couple of words. Usually I read what people have on their LinkedIn profile, but I must say you don't have so much information on LinkedIn, but you do have a big digital footprint and of course your own website, and there's a Wikipedia article on you and so on. But allow me to summarize a little bit for everybody tuning in and listening to us today, who you are, if they don't know you already. I think if they're based in Finland, they do know you. And of course, internationally, you're well known as well. So you're a psychiatrist, right? You are your background is psychiatry, but you're also a psychotherapist, a well-established author, and a media personality. You're very familiar with media work. You have worked and focused on solution-focused therapy. And you have co-founded the Helsinki Brief Therapy Institute in 1986. And you developed several innovative approaches. I was just telling you before we go on air that you strike me as a very generous person because you create a lot of content, a lot of helpful, innovative approaches and solutions and methods. For instance, the Kids'Skills that I'm also familiar as I'm a mother of a 9-year-old boy. Then we have ReTeaming, which is a 12-step solution-focused coaching and team building method. Then training programs for managers and teams and organizations. You had your own TV show, right? Where you've been advising people on air. So you are multi-talented, and I think today's topic, perhaps we see a little bit who you are as a person of the good work you've been doing over the years, but I think you have recently a strong focus on what makes workplaces happy and successful and individuals flourish in this. I think that fits perfectly LinkedIn as a platform, as it is a platform for professionals, a network of professionals. So, did I say correctly in my introduction? Are you all of this?
Absolutely. Very nice. And maybe it's worth saying that as a psychiatrist, you are typically not working on well-being or happy workplaces. It's a little bit special that I happen to be working in this field. But there is an explanation. Because when I studied psychiatry, I was more interested in psychology than medication. You know how popular it is with medication these days. Everybody you complain about any psychological problems and you're sure to get some pills. But I was more interested in this psychological part, which is called psychotherapy or family therapy or brief therapy. And I bumped into something that I thought was very useful and very interesting and very different from what I had learned. And it was called solution-focused therapy, or maybe solution-focused psychology, we should say. And I thought this is a wonderful psychological approach. It's very different from what we learn. We learn to focus on the problems and find the root causes of problems. We analyze
And
there is
somehow not only finding the root causes, but as you said regarding medication, to perhaps hide and numb the pain and not to really go to the bottom
and so
issue.
well said. And so I became very fond of this solution focused approach. Maybe because I wanted something different. I was a little bit tired of this endless analysis and focus on problems. People started to feel bad just because they were talking in such a way that was dragging them down. I mean, everywhere, even in schools, when children have problems in schools and you would have to talk with the parents, or teams are discussing their situation. So it's very sensitive how to talk about problems in a constructive way. So this was something that I became so interested in, and I suddenly, little by little, I found myself. I got invitations to talk to workplaces. First I said, no, I'm a psychiatrist. You cannot invite me to your workplace to talk or to organize anything. Why not, they said. I said, well, I'm a psychiatrist. Everybody will start to look at each other and say, who needs a psychiatrist here in our workplace or in our team? And I was joking about it. I thought maybe they are saying, we know exactly who needs a psychiatrist here, but why does everybody else have to be here? Because they already labeled somebody crazy in their team. But little by little, I got the invitation. I said, okay, I will try and come and talk with you. And when I spoke with people, with teams, organizations, leadership, I was using this model that I had learned, this solution-focused model. It's a very simple model. Every person can learn it. It's very simple. Instead of focusing on the problems, you ask people what they want. What would be a good result from our meeting? How would you like things to be in the future? It's like a future-oriented way of talking with people. And it's very empowering. People, we came here to complain about things, but now that you're asking that question, well, we could start to focus more on what we want. And it's almost like a philosophy of life. Your life is easier if you focus on what you want rather than on what you don't want. We even know that with children, because if we tell children, don't do that, stop doing that, then they do more of it. But if we tell them, hey, I want you to do this, let's see how we can fix this. So they're much more willing to comply or to collaborate with us. So very simple psychological approach, not so easy to do, but this is what I have been teaching for years, and we have found that it also applies to workplaces. Surprise, surprise.
Before we look at the future of the workplace and what makes them successful and happy and productive, and individuals feel that they have a purpose and so on, what is the current state? What are the biggest challenges? You're a man, as you said, that you've been getting invitations already decades ago to come and talk to companies, and I guess now it's more obvious you've established yourself. Companies are also very open to hear from different experts and different perspectives.
True.
I know that you just recently came from a trip to Doha. You were speaking there. You were one of the keynote speakers. But what's currently, if we look at the current situation of the workplaces around the world, perhaps if you want to give us a little bit the stigma, the what's happening in Finland, in the Finnish workplace, is there such a Finnish workplace, or it really depends on the context, on the company, on the organization, on the teams? And then what's happening on a broader perspective, whether you like, European level or global level? Are there some trends, or is it some common issues and common challenges, or is it very culture specific or company specific?
It's an interesting question, since it does appear like there is a trend. Maybe this trend has been there for a long time. It's gradually growing. If you go back in time, I don't know, just a few years, you could not have spoken about mental health. That word would not enter the business scene. But these days, even the conference in Doha, which I spoke at, it was called Wellness well-being, and mental health. So suddenly people are taking very seriously something that was a little bit of a taboo before. Yes, not totally taboo, because we have been speaking about burnout for a long time. Stress has been on the agenda for a very long time. So it's not like nobody has been talking about these things, surely, but the vocabulary is changing. And nowadays, even the word mental health and the word happiness, by the way, which you were using, they are like acceptable words. And the background for this is that there's a huge problems with retaining your workforce. So, like if you have a company and you want to keep your work and you want to keep them relatively happy so you don't lose them. It's the numbers. When you look at the numbers of how many days people are sick over in a period of a year, they have changed drastically. Like in the olden times, people were showing some numbers at the conferences. That's why I'm freshly reminded. In the olden days, it was like some people have been 3 days sick over the last year. And now we have like hours and hours of sick leave, and we have hours and hours long-term sick leave, and we have burnout. And everybody starts to understand that this company is not going to function. Is half of our population is burnout and sick leave. So,
Ben, allow me to pause you here, because I have a question, a follow-up exactly on this. I've been wondering, is really the new generations that perhaps they have a different work ethic, understanding?
Absolutely.
Is it also, it could be that the workplaces of today are more stressful environments, more demanding? Is it that the society wants us to be perfect mothers, wives, husbands, caretakers, employees, have hobbies, look beautiful? Is it, what is this sort of generational? Because I was thinking, are we really, if you were asked my parents, my grandparents, they couldn't afford to be sick. They had to milk the cows. They had to go with the animals, they had to go cultivate the land. And it seemed that they couldn't afford to be sick. I'm just being the devil's advocate here. As a journalist, I have to ask this question and try to understand. And for the audience looking and watching us, I want us to come to some conclusions, and you have some data. So tell us a little bit, what has changed? Is it the society? Is it the people? Is it the demanding employers? A combination of all? What's happening? Why are we seeing people, so many sick leaves and absent? Are they too sensitive, or are they employers too demanding?
You are right. Our population has changed quite a bit. You described so well how it was in the olden times. You would work your ass off and you wouldn't even complain. But the population is quite different these days. And maybe it's easier to understand if you think about schools. If you think about schools today, so kids, we say in Finnish, you vote with your feet. You go away, you don't stay. So if a child is not happy at school and feels like, I don't belong here, this is stupid, everybody's an idiot, I feel bullied, boring, very good to add that one, it's boring, then they don't stay in the school, they stay at home playing computers. So in many countries, we have like millions, I'm serious, millions of kids who don't go to school at all, because they don't want. And their parents, of course, try their best to make them go to school. But they say, I don't care. You can't make me, they say in English. You can't force me. And then the parents are at loss. How shall we force our child to go to school? So also the way we raise our children these days, it has changed. We don't force children the way we used to. We don't threaten them with harsh punishments if they don't behave. We want to collaborate with our children. So yes, you are right. The world has changed, and now we have to really think about how to compete. You are as a teacher in a school. or the school itself is kind of competing with the computer games. You want the children to come to school and they say, well, I'm happier playing my computer game at home. So then we have to think, can we make the school? I don't know if we can turn the school into a computer game. Maybe not. But can we do something to make it at least attractive to kids? Schools, and I'm referring to schools because maybe it's easier to understand. And then you have to think, can we also make our workplaces more interesting and some kind of feeling of belonging, that I belong here, I'm with my crowd, like in sports. You know, you play football or you play some sport, some team sport. You don't want to stay at home because your team is playing and you are needed, and you feel that you are needed. And every time you play, you get a lot of high fives. You get some emotional response. Dopamine. Let's call it dopamine. We can call it dopamine or whatever.
Some
rewards. Good
hormones.
feeling. Yeah, exactly. We could even talk about, I call them vitamins, but you can call whatever you want. It means that you have emotional, positive response. And this we want children to have in schools. This we want people to have at workplaces. And we should a little bit look into it, like what gives you kicks? What if you had a good day at work? What happened that day? Can you remember day when you were really satisfied with your why were you satisfied that day in your work? Who made it happen and how did you make it happen? So we are kind of starting to analyze, not the problem. We could spend a lot of time analyzing the reasons for burnout, the reasons for losing your employees, but we are actually, this is the ethos of solution-focused work. We're more interested in what gives you the hormones or the vitamins that really make you want to stay. It's like almost like motivational psychology. What makes you tick, they say in English. And this is something that I have been interested in. And I've noticed that these are things that you cannot teach with PowerPoint presentations. So when I teach, I tried to get the opportunity to organize some exercises. I call them also sometimes simulations. We do games, almost like games, where in that game or simulation, we start to learn how to make each other happy. It's very difficult to make yourself happy with mindfulness and meditation and drugs and whatnot. It's maybe easier when we start to think about this in interactional terms.
And very hands-on, very kinesthetic, because as you said,
kinesthetic, yes.
Yeah, the challenge nowadays is for children to adults to young adults and even our generation. I'm 41 years old, born 84. So because we have been, perhaps my generation, in between the old world and the new world. We were just in that transition. We lived without internet, without phones, but we were still very young when those innovations came to our lives. So we're able to we've seen the world before, and we have an idea how the old days were. Whereas these younger people, and they're already in the workforce, they haven't seen the world without internet. They haven't seen the world without a mobile device. They're so attached to those. And as you said, the kinesthetic, the role play, the simulation, getting up from your seat, because it's easy to sit down and passively absorb what's being numbing your mind and body, and sitting down and passively absorbing the content. Whereas when you get up and do yourself, I think the doing is important. And tell us a little bit from your background. As you said, you followed a little bit different approach from the typical psychiatry, where the dogma is to medicate. One of my favorite people to listen to, may he rest in peace, is Sir Ken Robinson. He talks about, in his TED Talks, he has been talking about, do schools kill creativity? And
I remember that one. Yeah.
And how kids are sort of who might be full of life and active and energy. They might, even from the modern medical professionals, be giving a prescription drug just to put them sit down and stay still, whether you have, let's say, a dancer to be in your class. And the teachers and also the employers, maybe they don't want to have people that fall a little bit outside of the typical what's expected. Like everybody has to be the same, behave the same. And then we talk about diversity. How important is diversity, do you think, in the workplace, and having people with different talents, different skill sets, and maybe issues even? We all having our issues. I don't think there's a perfect person, a perfect human or perfect employee. So what do you think? What do you think about the diverse employees and the skill sets they bring, with whatever issues they might come? And then what does it mean in terms of leadership from the employer point of view? How to make all this individuals succeed of course it's a for-profit business, to make them succeed towards common goals?
I couldn't agree with you more. The way I usually say it is that workplaces, companies, these days, they want team players. It's like if I had a company, I need to hire people, so I would be very, very focused on hiring people that I believe, or I have the hunch that they are good team players. It may be even more important to have team players than to have geniuses. You could have a group of geniuses that cannot do teamwork, so then the project will not deliver. And this is something that I think schools could benefit from, hearing this message. We want team players, give us team players. Now schools in many countries around the world, they're very competitive. So the kids are competing with each other. And I have done something, I tried to do something. So one of the things that I have done is that I've developed a program for schools that helps children and teenagers learn teamwork skills. The teamwork skills has many names. It's also called social skills. It's called friendliness skills. It's called happiness skills. It's called 21st century skills. It's quite common to emphasize that our next generation need a lot of teamwork skills. And teamwork skills is a win-win, because if you have good teamwork skills, then you feel that you belong to the group. And if we succeed in helping our children and teenagers learn teamwork skills, then we are also going to reduce automatically the mental health problems that everybody seems to be so worried about at this time.
Ben, how about individuals, though, that they are intelligent, as you said, genius even, but perhaps they're lacking those social skills, or they are not able to work perhaps in such teams, but maybe they're better in pairs or even as individuals? I mean, are they doomed? They don't have a future in the workplace or a position. What do you think about this? Also, the workplace being able to accept people who bring a unique skill set, for instance, but perhaps is there any solution-focused techniques that teams can strengthen both the individual competencies or also the pitfalls, if you like, or do you envision a workplace of the future that everybody finds their place in? Because perhaps, and also from the culture perspective, away from the individuals, not, as you said, some cultures are more competitive and cutthroat. So you might have perhaps competition amongst colleagues who should be, working for the same goal at the end of the day. Right. Whereas other cultures are more collectivistic societies who the teamwork it's a de facto thing. It comes from school, comes from the society, from the family unit. It's a fact. What are your thoughts on this?
Usually, if I have a limited time with an organization or with a company or a group of people, there's always one thing I try to make sure I can teach people.
What is it?
And that is sharing successes. Sharing successes. I'll explain what I mean. So in order for us to be happy at our workplaces, there are certain elements that need to be in place. This is not rocket science. This is what everybody knows. But one of those elements, yes, you might have already been thinking about it. One of the elements is that you feel appreciated in your in what you do. So you feel that other people are respectful or happy about what you are doing, and it's helpful for them and for the organization. But let's go one step further and say, in addition to feeling appreciated, and this, by the way, applies to school too, is the feeling that you succeed. Now, the feeling of success, the feeling that I did it, I succeeded, I managed, I found a way to solve this problem. The feeling of success is pivotal, they say in English. I think it's so important, it's essential for your well-being. And then we stop and we think, how can we make sure that everybody in our team, in our organization, experience it every day, preferably every day, feelings of success. And that's a good question to think about. So we've developed exercises around that topic. In fact, several different exercises, but my favorite exercise is the triple praise exercise. And if you like, I have written a chapter about this also in a book, so I'd be happy to share with you if you want to hear. I don't know.
Please,
if
go
a
ahead.
podcast, if a podcast
triple
is
play. What is triple praise? We're all ears.
Triple praise is an exercise that I want people to experience, where you divide people into a group of, let's say, 4 people. You can imagine, I can tell you, so you imagine. We are 4 people, maybe we are from the same organization, maybe we are even from the same team. We might be from different organizations too, because it's a learning experience. And then everybody takes turns in the group and shares some small success, nothing special, something that you succeeded to do last week, or maybe yesterday, or maybe even this morning, and you are kind of semi-proud of it. Now, we don't usually say I'm proud of that, but semi-proud. You are at least you are content that you did it. It was something that you managed to do, and then you share it. This experience with other people in your team, and the other people in your team, they respond positively. They might not always respond positively in real life, but in the exercise they do, and they will say things like, wow, you did it, give me a high five, or they might just show you a thumbs up sign or whatever. And one of them will have to say something like, that's not easy, it's tough, it's difficult, it can be very difficult. I haven't been able to do that. So you raise the person who told the story, and the whole group ends with a question, and they say, how did you do that? They ask you, how did you do that? And you're supposed to answer that question. You want to answer that question, but according to the exercise, the rules of the exercise, you are supposed to thank somebody else for your success. So then you have to say, oh, but I would never have succeeded without the help of my team member, or without the permission that I got from my boss, or without my wife who gave me some tips or something. You start to thank somebody else for your success. And now your team members, they will be a little bit worried about you thanking everybody else, and they will say something like, hey, come on, don't be modest, you did it, you have all the reason in the world to feel proud of what you did. And this is basically the exercise. And then everybody takes turns, and you can imagine it goes around. And then I ask people, how was it for you, this exercise? Like, did you enjoy it? Yeah, it was exercise. They enjoyed it. But what did you learn from the exercise? And I make people think what they learned from the exercise. And then I, of course, also trainer questions. How can you use these ideas in your daily life? people start to think. And they go like, this is what we need in our workplace. We need something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. Was just a simulation and an exercise. So don't get me wrong. I'm not telling people. I'm not giving instructions how you're supposed to behave. But I'm giving you people an experiential idea of how important it is for our mental well-being that we do put aside some time, where we have enough problems, we have all kinds of things that we need to talk about, but there should be a moment, I don't know, every week, every day, to share successes and to feel happy about what you have done. And that is something that is not so easy to do in your own mind. You need other people to do this. So we also call this exercise sharing. It's called triple praise exercise. It's called sharing credit exercise. It's called sharing successes exercise. But to drive home the message that in order for you to prevent burnout and extreme stress in this work, we all need to have these success experiences, and they are difficult to feel alone. You need another person, you need your team, you need your boss, you need other people to help you experience that feeling. Now back to school. I was talking about school is competing with computer games. The computer games are winning the fight. But if we want kids to have positive emotions, to experience positive emotions in school, that are able to compete with the computer game, then we have to do something like this. We have to get them to experience that joy that we see on the football field when they score a goal. The whole team goes bananas. But that experience, that bananas experience that you call dopamine, that experience is very important. Particularly today, when the way we keep our workforce is not anymore threatening them with reducing their salary or threatening them with layoffs or sacking them.
And there's high mobility in the job market. People change jobs. They back in
very
the day,
quickly.
They had one job. They got married and buried in the job. So that was the end. But let me ask you. You spoke about success. You're a man who, as a psychiatrist, as a psychotherapist, as a persona in media, an author, you have had your own share of success. You published many books. They've been translated in 20 plus languages. You travel around the world. You've spoken to how many, 40, 50 different countries, if you haven't lost count. The feedback from the people that you have impacted, have you been shared, or have you become aware of a success, an impact that you've had through your work, whether it's a book or a talk or a training, where people told you that, your methods, your exercises have helped transform our workplace relationships, that it's better now? Have you had some success stories that you received as feedback from all the people you've been that they've been influenced by your work?
You are so right that I too. I'm also human. I joke about it sometimes when I give lectures. I use maybe a bit of humor, maybe a little bit more than many others, but I have an entertaining style of giving presentations. And then people sometimes come to me and they want to give positive feedback for my style of presentation. And they say, I didn't fall asleep. And I go like, oh, I'm very happy for you that you didn't fall asleep. They mean that very often it's quite boring, can be lectures with PowerPoint and so on. And then I enjoyed your lecture, or your lecture was fun. And I think, Yeah, I'm kind of happy about that kind of feedback too, but I'm more happy if people tell me something that this has helped me, or I've used the ideas, and now that I use these ideas, this changed the way I feel about my work, or the way we feel in our team about our work. And yes, I quite often I get also, fortunately, that kind of feedback. Particularly, I can recall that we developed a method, a solution for focused method, a method based on solution focused psychology that we call Kids'Skills. And this method has spread around the world in many countries. I have been training myself. In some countries, they have trainers who I have trained earlier. And it's kind of spreading around the world, this method called Kids'Skills. And it's been used in schools and kindergarten, and parents have found it useful. And that's one of the methods. I have a few others where I actually...
That is an app, right, that you can download also?
Right. It's books, it's a website, it's apps, it's all kinds of things. YouTube video channel, what have you.
And of course, there, for everybody tuning in and watching, we're streaming live with OneStream Live. This goes out to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. You see now coming down below us, benfurman.com, the website. You find a lot of material there and short courses. You can sign up and you receive PDFs and information and a step by step or chapter by chapter interesting content. But you were talking about your successes, Ben. So you're talking about Kids'Skills app, and you have some other success stories also to share. How about any feedback from the professional life and the trainings and the companies and the workplace?
Many years ago, like 20 years ago, Tapani Ahola, who I have been working with him for many years together, and we have developed tools. I should say tools for coaching, tools for improving the teams. And one of the methods that we developed 20 years back, we just gave it a funny name. We called it ReTeaming. It was because there were many mergers at that time. We worked with banks, we worked with insurance companies, and it was a rough time, companies buying each other. And when you have a merger, then somehow the teams have to recuperate. They have to recuperate from the big change, and since that was the one of the big questions at the time, on how to recuperate, so we gave the method that we developed, or the coaching method, we called it ReTeaming. And ReTeaming became quite popular. The material was translated into many languages. I was giving workshops in Sweden, in Germany, in Austria, even in America. I had a small group of people who were interested. And over the years, it's quite common that I meet people who say, "You're the guy who, started this ReTeaming. I learned it many years ago. I have used it ever since. I don't know what I would do without this tool."
Tell us, for those who are not familiar, what is the basis of ReTeaming? What is the cornerstone of the method and the approach?
It's just a repackaging of solution-focused questions. Solution-focused coaching is very much based on good questions. You're supposed to present good questions to people, so people feel like, thank you, these questions were useful. Now that I answered these questions, I feel like I am empowered, like I have more ideas. And ReTeaming has 12 steps. So that's 12 questions, 12 good questions. And the first one question you already know, because I mentioned it at the beginning of this talk. What would be a good result from our conversation? How would things look like? So, for example, if people feel that their teamwork is non-existent, I can remember a case, the teamwork is non-existent. So then the next question is like, okay, so imagine, or let's suppose, that our conversation or our work together or our project, whatever project we create, that it will be successful, that it will give results, outcome. The outcome is good. What will the outcome be? Well, that's the first question in ReTeaming, a typical solution-focused question. And then we also look at what resources do we have in our community, like what resources do you guys see in each other that might make this change possible? That's a lovely question too, because people get to give compliments to each other. We also ask, what positive changes have already started to happen? Like, do you feel that you are already on the way? Very usually people say, yeah, we are already on the way. We haven't made the change yet, but there's already some positive change. At least we have been talking about this, and our boss has said that this is important. You create a conversation about this particular development that people want to happen, but you create the conversation in such a way that people feel very empowered or good, rather than feeling bad that they have succeeded, that they have not succeeded. And this positive energy, sometimes people actually say ReTeaming is an energizing method. You want to energize people. You don't want to bring people down by asking too many questions that are focused on why is everything not working, and we have been talking about this now for many times and nothing has happened. I think this is a waste of time. And people get very easily frustrated if you focus too much on problems. But the moment you shift focus and you start to focus on positive development that is already there, and sometimes we even plan celebrations, suppose we succeed. How are we going to celebrate? See, the type of questions that I'm referring to, there are 12 key questions, but they are all similar in the sense that whenever you start to think about that question, you're already starting to feel a little bit more energized and a little bit more happy.
Part of this show, Ben, is that every guest gets the chance to ask my next guest a question. So my previous guest last Wednesday was Markus Rantala, the Finnish Swedish-speaking politician from the Helsinki City Council and a business consultant. So Markus has a question for you.
Wow.
And I think it fits here. I would like to ask you, Markus said that there's often this idea that Finns are not good at marketing, that they're too modest and they don't like bragging. And however, he was saying that to ask my next guest, what in the lights of Finland being ranked in the World Happiness Report for many years in a row, and now the new results are coming in this spring, as one of the country that is number one in the world as a happiest country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I want to ask you, because Markus has the question that what 3 things in your opinion makes Finland happy? So that's one question from Markus. But before we open this, I want to ask you, is truly Finland a happy nation? In your opinion, you're a psychiatrist. Give me your honest, and of course the surveys, they have some first questions is like a GDP and facts and data, but all the other questions are based on Gallup surveys where they call people and on the phone and they call the sample, how happy, how satisfied are you from 0 to 10, the Cantrell scale. So knowing the Finnish psyche and the Finnish people, are the Finnish people the ones who would talk to a stranger and say how unhappy they are and how problems they see in everything? Apart from the, of course, data and so on. So what do you think? Is Finland truly happy, regardless of the surveys and how reliable the results are and so on? And then tell us 3 things. If you believe Finland is happy, why so?
I think happiness is isn't the English word elusive concept? It's very difficult to define happiness. So it would be fun. This is a thought experiment. Suppose there was a way to measure the amount of complaining Like how much people complain, how many seconds or minutes every day they use for complaining. And when I go to teach to other countries, they often come to me and say, oh, Finland is a famous country for education. You have one of the top best education systems in the world. And I say, well, I think you should take it with a grain of salt. So surely there are things in which we are good at, but there are also things that we are not so happy with. We have a lot of bullying in schools. We have a lot of domestic violence in Finland. We have a lot of according to Helsingin Sanomat, our newspaper, like a survey, 60%, mind my words, 60% of Finnish teachers are seriously considering changing profession because the work is so stressful and so unpleasant. Kids are behaving badly and so on. So this thing about happiness is very difficult. It depends how you measure it.
When you travel, Ben, and conferences around the world and you meet people, do people know about the survey? Do they, as you said, they might have some, because Finland has done quite a good job in branding itself as various things. And as you said, and I appreciate the honesty, we should always take them with a grain of salt. So for the international guests watching this podcast, set the record straight. You've worked with families, you've worked with children, you worked with companies, you travel the world. I believe you're a man who goes to the bottom of things, deep to the soul, to inside the brain, in the heart. What do you think? What makes, and as you said, it might be an elusive concept, but what could it be? Why Finland, and why is it perhaps the life satisfaction and certain other parameters, or is it all that, also to add to what you're saying, the statistics, Finland is a country that has very high drug abuse amongst young people.
Anxiety levels are high, particularly amongst the girls, and then psychiatric diagnosis in the rise, suicide is high. All these problems are similar everywhere in the world. Wherever I go, in Japanese, they have millions of kids who don't go to school, teenagers who don't go to school, nor do they go to work. And in China, they have high suicide rates with the children jumping off the high buildings. Wherever I go, they always tell me that we have serious problems, and we have serious problems in our country too. It might look good on some survey, but the fact is that we are struggling here in Finland with exactly the same problems that every other country is struggling to.
What do you think could be some solutions from the top down? Do you envision that the government, through the institutions, go from the top down, implement, have more? What do we need more? Do we need more psychologists, more psychiatrists, more hobbies, more hands-on kinesthetic? Do we need more dance? What do we need what kind of solutions? How do we get the skills to reverse the situation? Because the climate, it is what it is in Finland. It's very dark. It's long darkness. It's cold. It's icy. You can find many things to complain about also from the geographic location, if we talk about this part of the world. But how, as you said, how to focus on the skills, on the positive, of what we have instead, to come through the darkness, come through the anxiety, come through the issues. What should happen in the society? What future do you envision?
I'm glad you already answered my question in a way, because I'm exactly in the same line of thinking that we have up until now, we have tried to solve the mental health crisis, if I may say so, mental health, including stress, burnout, anxiety, depression, drug abuse, addiction. We have tried to solve it in a medical fashion. That is, putting a diagnosis on individuals, putting them on medication, sending them to psychotherapy, individual psychotherapy, mind my words. And then even if we have done this now for years, it's just become worse.
So we don't see the results of the effort. So something is wrong then.
And even we might start to look at the possibility that the solution is making the problem worse. Suffering, dissatisfaction with life is not a problem that should be solved with medication and doctors and psychologists. It's a problem that we should use a totally different approach, a more collective approach, sitting together. We should talk to the kids in school. How can we make this school a better place for you? We should be able to have group conversations rather than individual therapy. So the whole concept, the mindset of how to improve quality of life and psychological wellness, I think it needs to be totally revised. We are in the wrong direction. We are moving in the wrong direction because now we are just getting more and more diagnoses. We have more and more people who are medicated. Children are medicated. Soon half the population is medicated, and the epidemic is just wild.
So if we look back to Markus's question that kickstarted this very interesting segment here. So what are the 3 things that Finland should keep that make us happy here, in your opinion? Or if you, from your personal perspective, what 3 things make you happy in Finland that you appreciate and you're happy that you receive or happy that they exist?
But I want to keep the snow. I would love to keep the snow.
So let's keep the snow.
I'm a skier, so. No, but I think the important thing is to admit that people, human beings, are social beings. And in order for us to be happy, or for any people to be happy, we need to focus on how can we together create an atmosphere where we are happy, how families can create rituals that make the children happy and the parents happy. Otherwise, everybody will just divorce and get rid of their families and find another family and one more family. So these are skills, these social skills. And I would think that maybe I'm hoping that people realize that it's not only about mindfulness and yoga and personal well-being. It's also about well-being with other people. How can we be happier with other people? And that means we have to learn and develop our skills, such as thanking each other, asking for help when we need it, giving credit to other people when we are succeeding, but also apologizing when we have hurt somebody's feelings. So this is not rocket science, but this is more emphasis on the social part of happiness rather than on the inside your brain part of happiness, which is of course also important.
I think you're very correct here, and obviously you know this culture very well. I'm a foreigner that has been living here for 20 years, but I came to the same conclusion. I think the Finnish people are very individualistic, taking too much care about their bodies, going out and running and going to the gym, and as you said, doing yoga and whatever sport and hobby they have. But perhaps they are not even with their own families and children so close. Connected. So they provide the food and take to hobbies, but I think it goes to the communication and the connection on a different level. Not to mention, maybe they don't say "I love you" to their children or to their partners, God forbid. I don't know, but from my experience, I feel that the Finnish culture, and of course, Professor Hofstede talks about or ranks Finland as a very individualistic country, and at the same time, in Finnish schools and workplace, there's a big emphasis on teamwork and project management, maybe because
Exactly.
we know that people are very individualistic, so the system tried to make Finns work well together, knowing that we wouldn't succeed in this part of the world, in this climate, if we all focus on our own well-being and not really look at the society at large or the company or the project. So on the one, do you see this paradox that very individualistic people and then very focused on project and teamwork? So
imagine how successful the Finns would be if their sisu and their ability to overcome obstacles and solve problems would now be combined with a more team approach. I'm reminded by somebody wrote a book about living in Japan, and she came there to live as a tenant, and her landlord said that now that you come to live on this street, the first thing you need to do is I can come with you. We visit all the neighbors, everybody who lives on this street, and you have to bring them a present. So you have to buy a lot of presents, cheap present, no, it's symbolic. But anyway, you go and you say hello, and I'm so-and-so, and then you give a little present, and you become friendly with all the people in your street. Imagine, this is exactly what we would maybe need a little bit more in Finland too, because we tend to be alone in our own huts, and we don't even say hello to our neighbors.
They wouldn't open the door, and they think you're crazy, and they call 112.
You got it. You got it. You nailed it.
Well, you know better, I think, from your experience. Ben Furman, I would like to ask you, what would be one question that you would ask to my next guest, or one question that, you use it in your clients or in your friends or in your, every time you meet someone? Do you have one go-to question that it tells you a lot about a person? So once you ask that question, you get really the gist of who they are as people. What would that be? And please address it to my next guest.
Do I get any hints on what kind of a person you are going to have?
No.
Or is it? No. It has to be generic. It could be anyone.
Any question that we are all humans at the end of the day, but regardless of whether it's a man, a woman, or foreigner, or Finn, is there one question that, I don't know, a solution-based question?
Yes.
Focused,
I have a question like that, and I also teach it. That's another exercise, by the way. It is putting people in smaller groups, and then they ask this question to each other, or they pose it. And the question is, when you think about your work, what is the part of your work that you like the best, that you are most proud of, and why? Why this part of your work is something that is so precious to you? I mean, if I have to explain the question, is like in every work we do, there is some boring parts and that we'd rather not do, maybe the bureaucratic part or something. And then there is always something that gives us, like you say, the dopamine rush. And this is always so interesting to ask people, like, what's the dopamine rush in your work that maybe you don't experience every day, but every now and then anyway? And why is that giving you a dopamine rush? Probably because it's maybe related to your values, or somehow fits with your spiritual beliefs, or, it taps into your particular talent, special talent. Everybody has a special talent. That's a key question. It's an opening question that opens the treasure chest rather than the problem chest.
Also, what people value the most, and what is their love language, or how they feel appreciated, and how they feel. I think that you're right, that you don't understand only them as professionals and what rewards or appreciation they're after, but as people, what it matters to them on a personal level.
We do this when we do this exercise. When I do this exercise, I just did in Doha too, when we had a workshop, not the keynote, but the workshop. So I present the same question. I said, you will reveal to your group your passion. Everybody has a passion. Something that they love, something that they enjoy, something that they would do more of if they had the time. So you reveal your passion to other people, and then other people ask questions about your passion. And you get to tell why this thing is so, why are you passionate about this? And what is it actually? And what does it mean? And how does it work? And everybody should have a chance in life to experience the experience where other people are interested in your passion.
Ben, we could go on and on and on. I think we should have our own radio show or live stream. We could have a 24/7 going on, 24/7, 365. I want to ask you a last question. What is the legacy, ties with your passion question, the legacy that you want to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered 50 years from now? People Google you, stumble across your website, and they see something about you, or they find your methods, they find your tools, they find your old videos, they find this live stream, this podcast, and they start searching this man. Is there something, do you want to be remembered as something? A man that had this passion, or a man who helped this, or you don't want to be remembered?
You are quite quick. You can answer my questions before I even. Maybe you look at my face and say, "I know what Ben is thinking." Yes, no, I have been thinking about it. Of course, I have written books, and that's kind of leaving a legacy. But then again, I think I'm not that keen on leaving, and nobody needs to remember me. There will be other people who will be presenting similar ideas. So I like the idea that solution-focused thinking or constructive ways of solving problems. I like the idea that this philosophy would become popular. I think it has a lot to offer to people. It could make happier schools, happier workplaces, happier families. And I would like these ideas to spread, but it doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody. Maybe you need new people who are attracting the next generation. They are not going to be attracted to an old guy who, born in the 50s. They want somebody else to explain the idea.
There is this red thread that connects people, whether it's philosophers and experts and doctors. So I think many people will stumble across your work, and I think they will see the impact that you've had, the ideas that you have, and hopefully maybe they get inspired in the future. Maybe they get to use your methods and make them even better, right? Because I think it's important for someone, whatever we do, whether it's our own children, the legacy we leave to our close to ones, but also to the people who know us professionally or know our work, that they can even make better. Like they use it as an inspiration and run with it, right?
And I'm quite curious about different trends anyway. So I'm checking what's up and coming, what's the new trend. And I've noticed that many of the ideas that we have been speaking for years now, and we call it solution focused, or beloved child, of course, has many names, but I've noticed that other people are, maybe they don't use the word solution focused, but they use similar concepts. I've heard now many times that psychological problems need to be solved in a different way than mechanical problems. In mechanical problems, you want to know the reason, the root cause, and you need to find out why the airplane came down. But with psychological problems, the way you discuss should be a little bit different in order to engage people and energize them rather than make them feel down and depressed. And that's why I don't like this medical approach to depression, because it can make things worse.
Let's close with that. I agree 100% with you. Ben Furman, I must say, for the people, you have been my landlord before, how we know each other. We're not just LinkedIn connections, but Ben, I was living in his flat, renting it.
Yeah.
So he has been my landlord, and then his daughter came to stay there in that flat after me. So we have also a little personal connection as well. And as a man, I appreciate he's big in Finland and well-known internationally. And it's been a great pleasure, Ben Furman, to have you today and get to hear your thoughts. And let's meet in person, have a cup of coffee online.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks.
It will be great to see you. Thank you so much, Ben Furman, for all your insights. Get in touch with Ben, benfurman.com. You see the website down below. And I'll close this Connections Unplugged episode wishing you all the best. Thank you for tuning in and listening, whether it was LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. And remember, this show is powered by OneStream Live from Finland, with love from Espoo, the city of Espoo, where I'm from, where I'm based at. OneStream Live, onestream.live. You find more information, and you get a chance to create professional looking branded live streams just like the one I'm making. I'm making this show here. I'm a one-woman show streaming live to you my interesting video content with my interesting and insightful thought leaders and guests. I will see you next week, every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Finnish time, with another special episode and another guest from my LinkedIn connections. Have a nice rest of the day. Thank you for watching. Bye.